Let's play a quick imagination game. You just closed on your dream home. You're standing there on the front lawn, the sold sign leaning proudly in the grass, and you're already picturing BBQs, Netflix marathons, maybe even a golden retriever chasing squirrels across the yard. Then, the paperwork hits you like a slap in the face. HOA dues, $500 per month. Wait, what? That's not a typo. That's not some little $50 trash pickup convenience fee. That's $500 every single month, on top of your mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, kids' soccer cleats, and that coffee addiction you swore you'd cut back on. Once upon a time, HOA and condo fees were sold as no big deal. A couple of $100 tops to keep the grass trimmed, the lights on, and the pool halfway clean. It was pitched as the Netflix of neighborhood living, one small subscription for a whole package of perks. But somewhere along the line, that cute little side dish morphed into a giant steak dinner you didn't order, and now you're footing the bill. Here's the wild part. Over 3 million American households are living this exact nightmare. For them, HOA and condo dues aren't hovering around $150 anymore. They've blasted past the $500 per month threshold, sometimes creeping up towards $700 or $800. And no, we're not talking about high-end Manhattan penthouses or Miami condos with rooftop infinity pools. We're talking about regular neighborhoods in Missouri, Arizona, Oregon, Colorado, places where you thought the cost of living was at least somewhat reasonable. So how does a community fee jump from affordable to ridiculous? The answer can be summed up in 2 words: scope creep. At the beginning, HOAs were supposed to be glorified lawn care collectives. They made sure nobody painted their house neon purple, trimmed the bushes at the entrance, and maybe fixed the pothole near the clubhouse. But ambition is a dangerous drug. Boards started adding gyms, dog parks, private patrols, playgrounds, splash pads, community Wi-Fi, shuttle services, and security gates with enough cameras to rival the Pentagon. Suddenly, that modest $80 fee ballooned into something that makes you question if you accidentally signed up for a timeshare in Cancun. And then you layer on today's economic reality. Inflation didn't just hit your grocery bill. It hit the landscapers, the lifeguards, the pool cleaners, the asphalt crews, and the insurance companies. Property insurance for HOA-owned assets has skyrocketed thanks to storms, fires, and lawsuits. Labor costs are up. Materials cost more. Even electricity to keep that pretty fountain running 24/7 now eats a chunk of the budget. HOAs, instead of tightening their belts, just send you the bill. But wait, there's more. Condos take the chaos to another level. Unlike single-family homes, condo owners don't just share grass clippings, they share walls, elevators, plumbing, and roofs. When one of those breaks, the repair bill makes your jaw drop. A single elevator replacement can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. A roof redo? Try millions. And unless your condo association has a Scrooge McDuck-sized reserve fund, that money comes from, you guessed it, monthly dues and special assessments. Nothing says happy holidays like a $15,000 assessment bill taped to your door because the underground garage needs repairs. Now, here's where it gets really twisted. Lenders factor HOA fees into whether you qualify for a mortgage. That $500 per month could knock tens of thousands of dollars off the home you can afford. In practice, it's like secretly inflating the purchase price of your house by $100,000. Imagine explaining to your realtor, "Yeah, I wanted that 3-bedroom with the pool, but apparently my future HOA president's landscaping fetish just downgraded me to a 2-bedroom fixer-upper." The kicker? HOAs claim these fees protect property values. But tell me this, who's lining up to buy into a neighborhood where the HOA dues rival a used BMW lease? Rising fees shrink the pool of potential buyers, making the properties harder to sell. Congratulations, you just killed the very thing you were trying to save. It's like saving your phone's battery by never using it. Sure, it lasts longer, but what's the point? So let's call it what it is. HOA and condo fees have evolved from pocket change to financial chokehold. For millions of homeowners, it's not a luxury add-on, it's a second mortgage hiding in plain sight. And the worst part? These dues aren't capped, they're not predictable, and they're not optional. Miss a payment, and the same HOA that fined you for leaving your trash cans out overnight can slap a lien on your house. Which brings us to the burning question. Where is this pain the sharpest? Because not every state bleeds equally, and in some places, that $500 fee is just the beginning. Let's flip the map and take a road trip across America, because some states are basically HOA war zones, where $500 a month is the floor, not the ceiling.
Let's play cartographer for a second, because when it comes to HOA and condo fees, geography is destiny. It turns out not all states are created equal when it comes to coughing up $500 every month for shared lawns, half-functioning pools, and newsletters nobody reads. Some states are practically HOA fee hellscapes, while others are still limping along with what you might call reasonable dues. Spoiler, if you live in the Midwest or the Southwest, you might want to sit down before we dive into this. First stop, Missouri. Yes, Missouri, the show-me state. Well, homeowners here are being shown bills averaging around $469 per month, with many communities easily topping $500. And we're not talking about ultra-luxury condos in St. Louis with rooftop bars. Nope, these are ordinary developments where folks thought they were buying into suburban stability. Instead, they got HOA boards with champagne tastes and beer budgets. Except the homeowners are footing the champagne tab. Missouri now sits at the top of the charts for the steepest HOA dues in the nation, which feels like a plot twist nobody asked for. Next up, Arizona. Yes, the land of sun, saguaros, and HOA horror stories. With Phoenix and its sprawling suburbs growing faster than a viral TikTok dance, Arizona has become ground zero for HOA expansions. Many new developments here come with elaborate landscaping, desert-friendly but expensive water features, and gated security. The price tag? Monthly dues sliding past $450 and pushing into the $500+ zone. And remember, this is in a state where extreme heat kills hundreds every summer. You'd think hydration stations would be included. Instead, you get a bill that makes you thirstier. Now let's talk Oregon and Colorado. Both states have booming housing markets, and with them, skyrocketing HOA costs. Oregon's HOA fees often hover near $400 to $500 in urban and suburban areas, while Colorado's fast-growing developments near Denver and Boulder regularly hit the $500 mark. What drives it? The obsession with resort-style living. Pools, gyms, trails, playgrounds, and security patrols that make you feel like you accidentally moved into a budget version of Disneyland. Sure, it looks good on the brochure, but after a few years of $500 bills, that resort starts to feel more like a financial prison. Maryland and Florida deserve dishonorable mentions here, too. In Maryland, particularly around D.C. suburbs, fees climb high thanks to expensive land, aging infrastructure, and high insurance rates. In Florida, it's all about risk. Hurricanes, floods, and condo catastrophes like the Surfside collapse have led associations to stockpile reserves. Translation? High HOA and condo fees, with more hikes looming. It's not unusual to see $500 to $700 dues in coastal areas, even for modest units. Your ocean view comes with a tidal wave of monthly bills. Now here's the wild twist. The states you'd expect, like California and New York, aren't always the worst offenders. Yes, their HOA fees can be brutal, but they're often offset by higher average incomes or simply baked into sky-high property prices. In places like Missouri, however, the sticker shock hits harder because wages and home prices are comparatively lower. Paying $500 in St. Louis feels like getting robbed twice, once by the HOA and again by the cruel math of cost of living imbalance. So why these states in particular? A mix of factors. Some are experiencing population booms, driving rapid construction of new amenity-heavy developments. Others are dealing with aging infrastructure, forcing associations to hike dues for overdue maintenance. And some states, like Florida, are essentially disaster-prone, where insurance and reserves balloon out of necessity. Each reason is different, but the outcome is the same. Homeowners stuck with fees that feel less like maintenance contributions and more like second mortgages. What's the takeaway? If you're house hunting, don't just ask about the mortgage rate or property taxes. Ask where the HOA fees stand, and more importantly, where they're trending. Because buying in the wrong state might mean buying into a financial quicksand pit. Here's the irony. HOAs claim they're protecting property values, but in many of these high-fee states, the opposite is true. Rising fees turn off potential buyers, shrinking the demand pool. Imagine listing your home. 3-bed, 2-bath, nice yard, HOA dues $650 a month. That's like advertising free donuts with a $100 entry fee. Good luck moving that property fast. So if you live in Missouri, Arizona, Oregon, Colorado, Maryland, or Florida, congrats! You're on the front lines of the HOA fee wars. And the battle isn't just about dollars. It's about whether these communities can stay livable or fees will drive people out faster than a raccoon at a pool party. And if you're wondering why fees are climbing so fast, don't blame the guy trimming the hedges. This fee explosion comes down to a triple threat combo of insurance, inflation, and deferred maintenance that makes $500 look like just the opening act.
Okay, so you know where the biggest HOA fees are hitting. But here's the $1 million, or should we say $500 a month question. Why are these fees skyrocketing? Are HOAs suddenly run by gold-plated landscapers? Are pool cleaners moonlighting as Wall Street traders? Not exactly. The truth is uglier, more boring, and way more expensive. It comes down to 3 little words that pack a huge punch: inflation, insurance, and maintenance. Let's start with inflation. We all feel it. Grocery store bills look like they're trying out for the Olympics, gas prices swing like a yo-yo, and even a trip to Starbucks can make you question life choices. Well, guess what? Your HOA is living in that same economy. Landscaping companies charge more for mowing and trimming. Pool maintenance companies have hiked rates because chlorine prices soared. Even the electricity to keep those decorative fountains bubbling costs more. HOAs don't magically absorb these costs. They pass them along like a hot potato. Result? Homeowners' monthly dues rise faster than you can say budget shortfall. Next up, the silent killer, insurance. This one's a doozy. HOAs and condo associations have to insure their common areas: clubhouses, pools, roofs, elevators, sidewalks, you name it. And thanks to natural disasters, lawsuits, and general chaos, premiums have exploded. Florida is a poster child here. With hurricanes battering the coast, insurers are fleeing or charging sky-high rates. Associations have no choice but to fork over the money. And where does that cash come from? Right out of homeowners' pockets. Even in less disaster-prone states, insurance costs have jumped dramatically. Liability lawsuits, like someone tripping on a sidewalk crack, drive premiums higher. So yes, your neighbor's stubbed toe could be why your fees are up $50 this year. Finally, the elephant in the room: maintenance and deferred repairs. Many HOAs have been under budgeting for years. They kept fees low to look attractive to buyers, but ignored long-term costs. That's like skipping oil changes for your car. It feels fine until the engine seizes, then suddenly you're staring down a massive bill. Roads, roofs, garages, elevators, siding, playgrounds, all these things wear out. And if your HOA didn't stash away enough cash and reserve funds, the bill comes due hard and fast. How do they pay? By hiking dues or slapping homeowners with special assessments. Imagine buying a condo and suddenly getting a letter: "Hi, please pay $15,000 in the next 60 days to replace the parking garage." Ouch. What makes this triple whammy especially brutal is that it feeds on itself. Inflation makes materials and labor more expensive. Insurance companies raise premiums to cover those higher replacement costs, and deferred maintenance gets even pricier the longer you wait. It's a vicious cycle, and homeowners are caught in the middle. Here's a fun example. Suppose your HOA decides it's time to resurface the neighborhood pool. 10 years ago, that might have cost $50,000. Today, between higher labor costs, supply chain delays, and insurance requirements, that same job could cost $100,000 or more. Split that across 100 homes, and congratulations, your dues just jumped $50 a month. And that's just one project. Multiply it by landscaping, repaving roads, repainting buildings, and suddenly you're wondering why you didn't just buy a cabin in the woods instead. The kicker is a lot of homeowners don't even use the amenities they're paying for.
That $500 you're shelling out, maybe $200 of it goes toward a pool you've never swum in, a gym you've never visited, or a tennis court you didn't even know existed. It's like subscribing to every streaming service on the planet, but only watching reruns of The Office. The value just doesn't add up. But here's where it gets really spicy. HOAs often spin these fee hikes as protecting property values. The logic goes like this: if everything looks shiny and well-maintained, your home will be worth more. But when the fees themselves become so high they scare away buyers, guess what? Property values drop anyway. You can't sell your house because every potential buyer bails the second they see the monthly dues. Protecting property values? More like strangling them with good intentions. So yeah, this triple whammy is the perfect storm of costs. Inflation squeezes the budget, insurance hikes pile on, and deferred maintenance explodes into massive bills. Homeowners get left holding the bag, watching their affordable dream home morph into a financial nightmare. And with no caps, no brakes, and no clear end in sight, that $500 fee may just be the appetizer.
Let's be real. Not all homeowners suffer equally under the iron fist of skyrocketing HOA and condo fees. Some folks feel the pain like a stubbed toe, while others feel it like a sledgehammer to the wallet. And if you're living in a condo, an urban development, or one of those shiny resort-style neighborhoods, spoiler alert, you're the HOA's favorite piggy bank. Let's start with condo owners because, oh boy, they take the hardest punches. Unlike detached homeowners, condo residents don't just share fences or landscaping, they share everything. Roofs, elevators, plumbing, wiring, fire alarms, gyms, lobbies, hallways, pools, you name it. And when something breaks, the HOA can't just shrug it off. They have to fix it. Elevators don't repair themselves, and replacing one can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Same with parking garages, roofs, or water systems. And because it's shared property, every unit owner shares the bill. Which means when an expense explodes, your HOA dues or special assessments go sky high faster than a SpaceX rocket. This is why condo fees are notorious for hitting the $500 mark and then blasting well past it. In some high-rise buildings, monthly dues exceed $1,000. That's before your mortgage, before your property taxes, before utilities. Condo owners basically pay rent on top of owning their homes. And the insult to injury? A lot of residents don't even use the amenities. They're paying for the pool, the rooftop lounge, the gym, and the doorman, even if their daily routine is Netflix, Uber Eats, and working from the couch. Now let's look at urban areas. If you thought city living was already expensive, HOA and condo fees crank the pain up another notch. Why? For one, land is pricey, so developments pack in more amenities to lure buyers. Think shared co-working spaces, rooftop decks, yoga studios, and concierge services. Those don't come free. Add in higher insurance costs for dense buildings and infrastructure maintenance, and suddenly $500 a month feels like a baseline. Cities like New York City, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. see sky-high dues, but what's surprising is that mid-sized cities are catching up. Even places like Denver, Portland, and Austin are seeing condo and HOA fees soar, leaving owners wondering if they accidentally signed up for a lifetime gym membership they never wanted. And then we have the new developments, which might be the most ironic of all. Buy into a new neighborhood, and you'll likely get a brochure promising resort-style amenities. Pools, clubhouses, walking trails, dog parks, splash pads, even golf simulators. It all looks dreamy on paper, but once the honeymoon is over and the builders hand control to the HOA board, guess what? Those perks aren't freebies, they're budget black holes. The lush landscaping needs watering, mowing, fertilizing. The pools need chemicals, lifeguards, resurfacing. The playgrounds need maintenance and insurance. The private security gate needs staffing and tech upgrades. All of that translates into hefty monthly dues that often exceed $500. So your dream neighborhood with the sparkling community pool quickly morphs into a money pit with an access code. Here's the cruel irony. The people most likely to move into condos, urban areas, or new developments are often younger buyers or first-time homeowners, the very people least able to absorb runaway fees.
They stretch their budget to buy the place only to get smacked with $500 to $700 in monthly dues they didn't fully anticipate. And once you're in, there's no backing out short of selling. HOA fees aren't optional. They follow you like a bad smell. And let's not forget special assessments. Condo owners and urban dwellers get hit with these like clockwork. Maybe the garage needs waterproofing. Maybe the siding has to get replaced. Maybe the fire code changed. Whatever it is, you could be staring at a $10,000, $20,000, or even $50,000 bill on top of your regular dues. It's the HOA equivalent of being mugged, except the mugger is wearing a blazer and carrying a clipboard. So who gets squeezed the most? It's not the guy in the cul-de-sac with the single-family home and modest HOA fees for lawn care. It's the condo owner staring down a four-figure monthly bill. It's the urban dweller trapped in a tower with shared everything. It's the family that bought into a new resort-style community only to realize they're funding the resort.
Let's be honest. When HOA fees were $100 or $150 a month, most people just grumbled and paid them. It was like paying for parking. You didn't love it, but it was part of the deal. But now that fees are topping $500 a month for millions of households, the patience tank is officially empty. Homeowners aren't just annoyed anymore. They're angry. They're mobilizing. And home buyers are straight up reconsidering whether they want an HOA lifestyle at all. Think about it. In many parts of the country, $500 a month equals a car payment, a semester of community college, or enough to stock your fridge for weeks. Homeowners are asking the obvious question, why am I paying a second mortgage for a pool I don't swim in and landscaping I didn't ask for? That kind of math doesn't inspire loyalty, it inspires rebellion. One sign of the backlash is home buyer behavior. Realtors report that more buyers are specifically asking whether a property has an HOA, and for many, that's now a deal breaker. Instead of seeing HOAs as prestigious or community-enhancing, buyers are seeing them as ticking financial time bombs. A gorgeous house with a $650 monthly HOA? Forget it. A slightly less polished house without an HOA? Sign me up. People are realizing that control-free living, even if it comes with a few dandelions in the lawn, is worth more than a perfectly manicured neighborhood with a side of financial stress. Another sign? Grassroots pushback from within HOAs. Homeowners are attending meetings, demanding transparency, and asking uncomfortable questions. Where's the money going? Why are reserves underfunded? Who approved the new $80,000 fountain installation when half the sidewalks are cracked? These aren't just passive gripes, they're organized challenges. In some communities, homeowners are running for board seats with promises to cut waste, freeze fees, and stop the bleeding, and they're winning. The old guard of HOA boards, often caricatured as retirees with too much time and a love for arbitrary rules, are facing real competition from younger, budget-conscious homeowners. And then there's social media. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are flooded with HOA horror stories. Videos of absurd fines, skyrocketing fees, and ridiculous restrictions are going viral. And every time one of these videos racks up 1 million views, another wave of potential buyers thinks, maybe I don't need an HOA in my life. The backlash is real, it's growing, and it's profoundly reshaping how people view home ownership. And if you think this is just a minor blip, think again. The scale of the problem is jaw-dropping. Millions of households caught in the fee trap with no easy way out. Let's zoom out and see just how many people are stuck paying through the nose.
By now, we've talked about how HOA fees have crept up, who's getting squeezed, and why the backlash is bubbling over. But let's pause for a moment and wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this problem. We're not talking about a handful of unlucky homeowners with overzealous boards. We're talking about millions of households across the United States, more than 3 million to be exact, now paying HOA or condo fees that top $500 a month. That's not pocket change. That's a national phenomenon. Think about it. 3 million households. That's bigger than the population of Chicago. That's more people than live in 18 different U.S. states. It's not just a niche issue anymore, it's mainstream. For perspective, imagine filling every seat in Yankee Stadium. Now multiply that crowd by 60. That's how many households are essentially writing a second rent check every month, except this time the landlord is their HOA. And here's where the numbers get even scarier. HOA fees aren't flat, they rise. Over time, they rise a lot. Studies show that HOA and condo dues have been increasing at a rate faster than inflation in many regions. So if you're paying $500 today, don't assume you'll be paying $500 5 years from now. It could be $600, $700, or more. The 3 million households paying $500 or more today could easily swell to 5 or 6 million by the end of the decade if trends continue. Let's also talk about where these households are. We're not just looking at coastal elites sipping lattes and luxury condos. We're looking at ordinary neighborhoods in states like Missouri, Arizona, and Colorado. Suburban families, retirees on fixed incomes, and young couples trying to build equity are all caught in this net. For retirees especially, the math is brutal. If you're living on Social Security and a modest pension, a $500 HOA fee can eat a quarter of your monthly income. That's the difference between living comfortably and scraping by. Now add in the uneven distribution of these fees. In some neighborhoods, HOA dues are still under $200, while in others, they're pushing $1,000. That inequality fuels resentment. Why should one group of homeowners pay 5 times more for services that in many cases don't even seem superior? It creates a sense of injustice, a two-tiered system of homeowners. The lucky ones, who found a low-fee HOA, and the unlucky ones stuck paying for budget bloat. The sheer size of the population paying these high fees also has ripple effects on the broader housing market. Buyers see those 500-plus dues and walk away. Sellers find their homes harder to offload. Lenders calculate HOA dues into loan approvals, which can knock thousands off what buyers qualify for. Suddenly, HOAs aren't just affecting current residents, they're warping the housing market for entire regions. And here's a thought experiment. Imagine what else 3 million households could be doing with that $500 each month. That's $1.5 billion collectively, every single month, redirected into HOA coffers. Over a year, that's $18 billion. Enough to fund major infrastructure projects, pay down mountains of student debt, or give every kid in the country a shiny new bicycle. Instead, it's being used to mow medians, clean pools, and buy overpriced insurance. The opportunity cost is staggering. The human side of the numbers is even starker. For many families, HOA dues are the budget breaker. They're the difference between saving for college or not, between affording a vacation or staying home, between keeping up with bills or falling behind. And unlike other expenses, you can't easily cut them. You can cancel Netflix, you can skip Starbucks. You can't tell the HOA, sorry, not this month. So when we talk about 3 million households, we're not just rattling off a stat. We're talking about millions of individual stories, millions of kitchen table conversations where families ask, can we really afford to keep living here? Millions of retirees recalculating their monthly budgets, millions of buyers hesitating before signing on the dotted line. It's a silent crisis, hiding in plain sight, spread across cul-de-sacs and condo towers. And if the raw numbers don't make you sweat, the fine print will. Because it's not just about dues, it's about hidden costs, surprise assessments, and financial landmines waiting in the HOA rulebook. Let's talk about the sneaky side of these fees.
If you think HOA life is just about predictable monthly dues, think again. That $500 a month is often just the tip of the iceberg. Because buried beneath the polite newsletters and community harmony slogans are hidden costs, surprise assessments, and fine print traps that make even seasoned homeowners feel like they signed a contract with the devil, who apparently also serves on the board. Let's start with the infamous special assessment. If regular dues are like your monthly car payment, special assessments are like your transmission blowing up out of nowhere. One day everything's fine, the next day you get a letter demanding $10,000 because the roof needs replacing, or the parking garage is crumbling, or the pool failed an inspection. These charges aren't optional, and they usually come with a pay-by date that makes credit card bills look generous. Imagine budgeting carefully all year, only to get blindsided by a 5-figure bill. For many, it's financially devastating. Then there's the issue of underfunded reserves. A lot of HOAs keep dues low on purpose to attract buyers. Low monthly payments look great on a listing sheet, but what buyers don't see is that the community is running on fumes. When the big expenses inevitably arrive, new siding, a resurfaced road, upgraded security, the HOA has no cash saved up. So instead of steady, predictable dues, residents get whacked with giant, unpredictable assessments. It's like living in a house where the fire extinguisher is empty and you only find out when the flames are already in the living room. Now let's talk about the nickel and dime charges HOAs love to sneak in. Need a new access card for the pool? That's $50. Want to rent the clubhouse for your kid's birthday? That's $200 plus a cleaning fee. Trash can left out overnight? That's a $100 fine. Dog poop not picked up? Another $75. Some HOAs even fine residents for holiday decorations that stay up too long. It adds up, and fast. Suddenly, your $500 monthly fee isn't really $500. It's $500 plus whatever random fines and fees the board decides to dish out. And then we have insurance gaps. Here's a dirty little secret. Many homeowners assume their HOA dues cover all insurance needs. Wrong. HOAs typically insure common areas, not your unit's interior or personal property. In condos, this can be especially tricky. A pipe bursts in the wall. The HOA's insurance might cover the pipe, but not the thousands in water damage to your floors and furniture. That's on you, with your own separate policy. If you didn't read the fine print, surprise, you're paying twice for coverage. But wait, there's more. Rule change fees. HOAs sometimes amend their covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Sounds boring, but those changes can cost you. Suddenly, you're required to use only approved vendors for repairs. Vendors who, conveniently, charge premium rates. Or maybe they decide all homes need a new paint scheme, and each resident must repaint within 3 years. Boom. Thousands of dollars out of pocket. These aren't technically fees, but they're costs mandated by the HOA, and ignoring them isn't an option, unless you enjoy liens. And speaking of liens, miss a payment, even accidentally, and some HOAs move at lightning speed to tack on late fees, legal fees, and interest. A $500 bill can balloon into thousands once the lawyers get involved. In extreme cases, homeowners have actually lost their homes to foreclosure over unpaid HOA fees. That's right, skip your $500 dues and the people enforcing long-known bans could literally take your house. What makes all this worse is the lack of transparency. Many HOAs don't make it easy to see where money goes. Budgets can be vague, reserve studies non-existent, and financial reports buried in jargon. Homeowners are left guessing how much risk they're exposed to until the next surprise letter arrives. It's like playing financial roulette, except the house always wins, and the house is your HOA. Here's the big picture. HOA dues aren't just high, they're unpredictable. The sticker price says $500, but the real cost could be thousands more once special assessments, fines, hidden charges, and mandatory upgrades kick in. Homeownership is supposed to offer stability. Instead, for millions living under HOAs, it's a financial roller coaster with surprise drops and stomach-turning loops. And that's why if you're buying or already stuck in an HOA, you've got to do your homework. Let's talk about the red flags to watch for, the questions to ask, and how to spot a financial trap before you sign on the dotted line.
So you've fallen in love with a house or condo. The kitchen's got granite counters, the backyard looks like a magazine cover, and the price tag doesn't make you faint. Then the realtor casually drops, "Oh, by the way, there's a $500 a month HOA fee." Cue record scratch. If you don't want to end up in the next HOA horror story, here's the checklist of things to investigate before you buy, or even if you already live in one and want to know what's coming down the road. The first thing on your radar should be the reserve fund. Think of it as the HOA's emergency savings account. Healthy associations stash away enough cash to cover big-ticket repairs, like roofs, roads, and elevators. If the reserve fund is empty, or worse, non-existent, that's a flashing red siren. Because guess who pays when the HOA runs out of money? You do. And it won't be spread evenly over 30 years, it'll come as a fat special assessment demand.
Always ask for the HOA's most recent reserve study and financials. If the answers are vague or non-existent, run faster than you would from a clown holding a chainsaw. Second, check the history of fee increases. HOAs rarely keep fees stable forever. They creep up year after year. If you're already seeing $500 now, what's it going to be in 5 years? $600? $700? Ask to see the last decade of dues history. A community that jumps dues unpredictably is like dating someone who constantly forgets their share of the dinner bill. You know how that ends. Third, investigate upcoming projects. Is the community planning to resurface roads, replace roofs, renovate the clubhouse? These sound great on paper, but they're expensive, and you'll be footing the bill. HOAs love to brag about amenity upgrades, but they're code for fee hikes. If the board is planning a splashy new project without explaining how it'll be funded, that's your cue to brace for impact. Fourth, watch out for insurance coverage gaps. HOAs typically insure common areas, but not your personal unit or interior. That means if the sprinkler system goes rogue and floods your living room, the HOA's insurance might not help you. You'll need your own walls-in condo policy, which adds another cost on top of your dues. Before you buy, clarify exactly what's covered and what isn't. The last thing you need is double paying for coverage, or worse, being left uncovered when disaster strikes. Fifth, read the rules. Yes, they're boring. Yes, they're full of legal jargon. But buried in those CCRs and Cs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, are landmines. Rules about what colors you can paint your house, whether you can park on the street, what kind of pets you can have, even what kind of holiday lights you can hang. These aren't just annoyances, they can cost you money. Violations often come with fines, and fines add up. Do yourself a favor, read the rules before you buy, not after you've been fined for hanging a wreath in July. Sixth, check the state laws. Some states like Florida and Texas have specific laws regulating HOAs, requiring financial transparency or limiting fee increases. Others give HOAs broad powers with little oversight. Knowing your state's legal environment can tell you whether you'll have any recourse if fees spiral out of control. Don't assume you'll figure it out later. Once you've signed, you're in their system, and the rules favor the HOA. Finally, talk to current residents. Forget the glossy brochure. Ask your potential neighbors how they feel about the HOA. Do they think fees are fair? Do they trust the board? Do they feel blindsided by assessments? If the answers sound like a therapy session, consider that a warning sign. Residents are the canaries in the coal mine, and their complaints can save you a fortune. Here's the bottom line. HOA and condo living isn't inherently bad. Some are well-run, transparent, and fair. But the bad ones, they're financial quicksand dressed up as community living. If you don't do your homework, checking reserves, history, rules, insurance, and resident experiences, you could find yourself locked into $500 dues that only go up, with surprise bills lurking around the corner. And here's the thing. Homeowners aren't just sitting back and taking it. When the bills get too high and the rules too strict, people start fighting back. Let's look at the rebellions, recalls, and lawsuits that are reshaping HOA America.
Here's the thing about people. They'll put up with a lot. Ugly carpet, rising grocery prices, even neighbors blasting lawnmowers at 7 a.m. But when you start dipping into their wallets month after month with HOA fees that rival car payments, oh, that's when rebellion brews. Across the country, homeowners are no longer shrugging off those $500-plus monthly dues. They're pushing back, and in some cases, fighting harder than a dad at a Black Friday TV sale. First up, boardroom battles. Homeowners are storming HOA meetings like they're town hall debates. Forget the sleepy gatherings where 3 retirees argued about mailbox paint. These meetings are packed, heated, and loud. Residents demand to see the books, grill board members about every penny spent, and call out wasteful projects. It's democracy with a side of popcorn. And the stakes are high, because in many HOAs, the board controls not just spending, but the trajectory of everyone's property values. Then there's the wave of takeovers. Homeowners are running for board positions with reform platforms, freeze fee increases, demand financial audits, stop vanity projects like overpriced fountains. And they're winning.
In some neighborhoods, long-entrenched boards, often seen as mini monarchies, are being ousted by younger, budget-conscious residents determined to inject transparency and sanity into the system. It's a grassroots revolution, one vote at a time. But meetings and elections are just the start. The next weapon? Legal action. Lawsuits against HOAs are on the rise, especially where dues have skyrocketed without explanation. Homeowners are suing boards for mismanagement, misuse of funds, or outright fraud. In some cases, state courts have stepped in, forcing HOAs to open their books or roll back on reasonable fees. Nothing says accountability, quite like a judge reminding the board they're not kings, they're volunteers with fiduciary duties. And let's not forget legislative pressure. As complaints pile up, lawmakers are taking notice. States like Florida, Texas, and Arizona are passing bills that force HOAs to maintain adequate reserves, disclose financials, and limit how quickly they can raise dues. Some proposals even aim to cap assessments or require independent audits. In other words, the Wild West days of unchecked HOA power may be numbered. Politicians love nothing more than a cause that unites voters, and apparently, nothing unites people faster than a shared hatred of surprise $10,000 assessments. Of course, the pushback isn't just formal, it's cultural. Enter the world of social media shaming. TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, these platforms are flooded with HOA horror stories. Homeowners post their outrageous fine letters, broken down amenities, and insane board antics for the world to see. And viewers eat it up. Every viral video adds fuel to the fire, making HOAs nationwide more cautious about flexing their authority. After all, nobody wants their community to become the next meme. But here's the delicious irony. In trying to protect property values, HOAs may actually be destroying them by sparking backlash. Buyers see viral stories, hear horror tales from friends, and suddenly, no HOA becomes a selling point. Imagine trying to market your home. Beautiful 3-bed, 2-bath, plus a $650 HOA fee that funds questionable projects. Not exactly a crowd pleaser. The backlash itself is shifting housing preferences away from HOAs, especially among younger buyers. Another tactic gaining steam? Collective resistance. Some communities are organizing to simply refuse new fees or assessments. They pool resources for legal defense, coordinate petitions, and demand recall elections. In extreme cases, residents have even voted to dissolve their HOAs altogether. It's not easy. Dissolving requires navigating state laws and legal hoops, but the fact that people are even considering it shows how fed up they are. And don't underestimate the power of bad PR. Local news outlets love HOA stories. A neighborhood revolt makes great TV, and HOAs look terrible when their fee hikes get dragged into the spotlight. Boards fear media attention almost as much as lawsuits, because once the cameras roll, it's game over for their carefully curated image of community harmony. So, yes, homeowners are fighting back through meetings, elections, lawsuits, legislation, social media, and outright revolt. The days of silent fee hikes are ending. HOAs are facing scrutiny they've never dealt with before, and it's only intensifying as more families hit that $500 a month breaking point. And that brings us to the big finale, the future. Because if fees keep climbing and backlash keeps growing, what does the next decade of HOA living look like? Will it be reform, rebellion, or full-on collapse? Let's take a peek into the crystal ball.
So, after all this doom and gloom, $500 dues, hidden assessments, nickel and dime charges, lawsuits, and outright revolts, you might be wondering, what's next? Are we heading for reform, collapse, or just more of the same HOA circus with a bigger price tag? Grab your crystal ball, or maybe just your calculator, because the future of HOA and condo fees is looking complicated. First, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Fees will keep rising. Sorry, but this isn't a bubble that's about to pop. Inflation isn't vanishing, insurance costs are climbing, and maintenance only gets more expensive as communities age. If you think $500 is bad, brace yourself.
For some homeowners, $600 or $700 a month will become the new normal within a few years. Condos, in particular, are on track for brutal increases, with high-rise buildings facing infrastructure repairs that make your bank account whimper. Second, insurance and disasters will play a huge role. States like Florida and California are already drowning in sky-high insurance premiums thanks to hurricanes, wildfires, and floods. Associations are forced to hoard cash and reserve funds just to stay insurable. That means higher dues for everyone. And here's the kicker. As climate risks spread to more states, this problem won't stay coastal. Tornadoes in the Midwest, droughts in the West, severe storms in the South, all of it raises costs. The climate tax is coming, and HOAs will be the ones passing it on to homeowners. Third, we'll see more legislation and oversight. Lawmakers are waking up to the fact that homeowners are fed up. Expect to see more states requiring HOAs to conduct reserve studies, disclose financials, and cap how fast dues can rise. Some states may even create ombudsman offices or arbitration boards to mediate disputes. Will this solve everything? No. But it will bring sunlight into HOA finances, and sunlight, as they say, is the best disinfectant. Fourth, the backlash will reshape housing preferences. More buyers will avoid HOAs altogether, even if it means giving up on pools or gated security. No HOA is already becoming a hot keyword in real estate listings. Expect that trend to grow. Sellers in high-fee neighborhoods will struggle more, while homes in non-HOA areas will gain value. Ironically, HOAs created to protect property values may become the very thing dragging them down. Fifth, HOA boards themselves may change. Younger, financially savvy homeowners are running for positions, determined to bring transparency and accountability. The stereotype of the retired busybody patrolling for lawn violations isn't going away completely, but it will face more resistance. Reform-minded boards could rein in some excesses, but the challenge will always be balancing rising costs with residents' tolerance levels. Sixth, get ready for more tech-driven management. HOAs are adopting apps for dues collection, maintenance tracking, and communication. In theory, this increases efficiency. In practice, it also makes it easier to fine you for leaving your trash cans out 10 minutes too long. Automation means less wiggle room and faster enforcement. It's HOA dystopia digitized. So, what does all this mean? That $500 a month isn't just a line on your budget. It's a glimpse into the future of homeownership in America. A future where kindness clashes with control, where fees rival mortgages, and where homeowners have to decide, is the perfect neighborhood worth the price tag?